We're going through some streets.
We turn down a narrow street, just wide enough to fit one car. There's motorcycles in front and behind us, clothing lines spilling onto the streets. And to the left of me, the road drops dramatically into a murky river.
So have you done Denpasar at all?
No.
Yeah, so it gives you probably wouldn't do it if someone doesn't take you there, and so it's a little kind of cool place.
That's Will Meyrick. They call him the street food chef. And today, he's taking me somewhere no tourist goes.
Oh, shit.
The smell of roasted suckling pig fills the air, sweet and smoky.
And they'll gut the pig here, and then they stuff it with bumbu rajang. Bumbu rajang is the only Balinese sort of paste that they have. And then they'll rub turmeric and tamarind on the skin, and then they roast it. And then you get your babi guling.
Babi guling is Bali's most important dish. And right now, I'm down some narrow alleyway full of pigs, dead and alive.
So it's very, very rudimental, super raw.
This place supplies all the local eateries with their babi guling. So there's pigs at all stages of the prep, being gutted, being cleaned, being marinated, and roasted.
Yeah, that's about $250 for that pork.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Big one.
Thinking back, I realized Will wanted me to see this before I tried it. He wanted me to understand the process, the people involved, its meaning.
We will order this kind of pot when we do blessing ceremony for new houses, new building. We will order one, and also for the wedding.
With someone like Will, you can't just talk about food without talking about culture.
You learn people's culture through their food, and you can actually work out people's DNA and where they've come from through food history.
And that's what today is, a crash course on Balinese culture. Real, raw, unfiltered. I'm Michael Motomani, and you're listening to No Fixed Address, a show about the world's most extraordinary people. 2 years ago, I quit my job as a marketing executive and decided to travel indefinitely with my wife and baby. We sold our house, our cars, packed a bunch of clothes into a suitcase, and now live in a new country every month. And something I've come to love about living on the road is the people I meet. So I decided to start a podcast. That way you can meet them too. Today, we're in Denpasar with Chef Will Meyrick. And when I say I got a crash course on Bali, I mean it. He took me into the traditional market, the seafood market, the meat market, and a couple warungs, small family-owned eateries.
They're just little holes in the wall where all the locals go.
And then he welcomed me into his home.
Like you walk through a little door in the middle of the city to this vast garden.
Where I really got to know another side of Bali. Man, that babi guling where they were gutting the pigs and roasting them was, I'm still having fantasies and nightmares about it. I really don't know what to say.
I understand it. I appreciate it, but I think I gave up pork after that.
Dude, massive, massive pigs being gutted with their intestines just dripping all over the floor, blood spilling everywhere.
Okay, we get it. I think we get it. What I really found interesting is that the babi guling is used for every ceremony, a birthday, a wedding, anything that you celebrate, you go get one of these dishes.
Yeah, and this is the coolest thing about babi guling is that it uses every single part of the pork, of the animal, really. It's not, we just say that. One dish, one bowl literally has every part of the animal, from the liver to the stomach to the intestines. They even have a salad. You remember that?
Yeah. Did you try that?
I didn't try. I couldn't do it. They had a salad where the dressing of the salad was using the fresh blood of the pig.
Yeah. I couldn't do that either.
And you know me, like I can eat anything.
Yeah, I've seen you eat blood-soaked things before. But I think a salad was a little weird.
I think just the idea of blood on a salad. Maybe if they would have positioned it as a vinaigrette, you know?
It would have
Or
been a
maybe
little
a
easier to
Caesar or
stomach.
something. They toss it with some egg yolk, or maybe, you were actually a Caesar expert in your past life.
Oh yeah, I know
When are you
how
going
to
to give
make
us
a.
your Caesar recipe?
I know how to make a Caesar from scratch. I don't think I remember
She
anymore.
doesn't know how to cook anything in the world, knows how to make a Caesar from scratch. I mean, is that not a fucking paradox? I don't know what is. If you can't tell by now, this is my wife, Vanessa. She's the producer and co-host of this show. She's the one who makes all the magic happen. I just show up looking as pretty as I am with the voice for radio.
Your voice is amazing, I do have to say. Wait, go back to babi guling. You know what's interesting also? That right away you get it. You go to Bali and people are like, do you have to have this dish? And the connection between the spiritual and the food and the culture is all tied into that one dish. Like the spiritual part of Bali is heavy. You feel it all the time.
There's an energy happening here that I don't think most people talk about. The only people I really heard talk about it is the people who live here.
Yeah, the people that got taken by Bali.
Yeah, and the way that the people speak about it is the energy coming from the volcanoes. It's this island that's just protruding. This energy sucks you in.
I think the people have a lot to do with it too, just given that they have this belief that everything has to be in harmony and the balance between good and bad. And I think that's what makes people so open and friendly.
The best thing is the food is great. The people are extremely nice. And I find the most fascinating is the expats, right? We already know it's a beautiful country. The people who live here know it's a beautiful country. The people who are born here know it's a beautiful country. But the amount of expats that have come here and have started lives 20, 30, 15, 10 years ago and consider this as their home is mind-blowing.
It's a huge community.
Yeah, and not only just like a random few expats. Like these are very successful, smart people who have fallen in love with the Balinese people, the island, the culture, the food, and they've made it their home.
Yeah, there's so much talent here from both locals and expats. And that's another aspect, how they mix and how they live together, And you get all kinds of tourists, all kinds of expats. But everybody that we've met so far has so much respect.
Yeah, like even Chef Will Meyrick, who we're going to be talking to today, his entire staff is obviously Balinese. He respects the culture unlike anybody I've ever seen respect the culture when they move to a different country, to the point of hiring priests, making sure the ceremonies are done correctly, making sure that he respects the people that he's hired to work with and work for or work behind, whatever. I mean, it's just this holistic look at life in Bali. And he is one who has literally come here and made a life for himself. And let me tell you, this guy is fucking cool.
Yeah.
What a resume, man.
He's a celebrity chef who's built his food empire here in Bali. He's got 4 restaurants on the island and recently opened up another one in Australia. Although he's known around Indonesia for being a judge on Top Chef, the TV show, he's known around the world as the street food chef. It's incredible how much stuff he's got going on, and all of it has culture top of mind. Aside from the restaurants, he does these cultural immersions where he takes people on culinary adventures around uncharted parts of Bali. He does cooking classes and even mountain biking tours where he takes people around the island's most amazing landscapes. His love for Asian food has led him to the jungle, to small eateries in the most remote corners of the island, cattle markets, fish markets. We're talking years and years of research and what is now a lifetime commitment to Indonesian food and culture.
Just as a heads up, this episode is sponsored by Guide Geek, a new way to plan travel. It's an AI chatbot built on OpenAI. But what's cool is that it's actually curated by human travel experts at Matador Network, the world's largest independent travel publisher. I've been using it for a while now, mostly on WhatsApp, but you can use it on Instagram Messenger too. I often ask for advice on what neighborhoods to stay in when I'm booking my accommodations, which has been super freaking helpful. So head to guidegeek.com to try Guide Geek for free and start planning your next trip. That's guidegeek.com to start planning your next trip with your newest AI travel assistant. Well, I had a fantastic day with you just roaming the streets of Bali. I mean, you showed me a side of Bali that I think everyone dreams of. It's like what you see in the movies or on the travel shows. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
One thing that really stuck out and something that I felt is super important in your life or the influence in your life is street food, right? Do they call you
street food chef?
The street food chef.
Some of the names that are flying around, and there's other names that probably I shouldn't say on the podcast as being a chef.
We'll talk about that later. Off mic.
Off mic.
And the importance of street food to me, I think it went past just a really cool photo, right? You were saying. I thought that was super interesting. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's there's two philosophies of street food. I think, street food today is people live to eat. They indulge. And then there's, cool bubble tea concepts. There's cool little holes in the walls where they do waffles and it's a gimmick and they roll them out.
Instagram moments,
etc. But the real essence of street food is people eat to live because they don't have enough money, so they need to make more money. So therefore, they do satays, or they do a warung, or they do a nasi campur, or they do whatever it is. You see it in Thailand as well, all over Asia. And people do it out of necessity. And then people, will go there because it's good, it's consistent. But that person that wakes up every morning has to make it consistent because it's her livelihood. So if she doesn't make it consistent, she loses the customer bases and she loses, that extra income that comes in. So it's super important that, these people are vigilant in what they do every day. They're religiously doing what they do. That consistency is, for me, an admiration because have consistency in your life is something that's hard to get.
It's interesting you say that because I don't think people put one and two together, that this idea of like something very, very good and just execute day in and day out. And the monotony of it doesn't matter because it's there for survival. So if you're going there to take a photo of your favorite, taco on in a Mexico City, or, I was just in Mexico City a couple months ago. I was eating street food every single day. And I'm going around trying to tell people about these different foods. But in reality, you're right. It's one cart, one food every day.
Yeah. And that's it. And it's one guy doing it.
There's an art in that in itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've perfected it.
The art of complacency. That is the hardest thing. And I think that as you get older and you do restaurants, being complacent and it's funny, like what I found is that the older I get now, I'm 47, I don't want to build more restaurants. I want to be complacent and actually spend time with the kids and spend time with the family and not actually try and reach out. I want another one. I want this. And, there's a whole nother thing with chefs, etc. Chefs, in my eyes, have an addictive personality. And a lot of them have come from backgrounds of, either some sort of abuse, whether it's, drug abuse, whether it's alcohol. All chefs indulge too much in
addiction comes in every form. If you have an addictive personality,
whether it's gambling,
it comes.
Whether it's, whatever
cigarettes,
it is.
drinking, whatever.
A lot of chefs haven't come from good places. That's why they are cook. It's the only industry you can come from nothing to something without a degree, without a diploma. It's just out of sheer will and just drive to do it. When you put those people together, they suddenly feel that they have a family, they have a support network that perhaps they don't have outside. So, you can be in a kitchen and some guy is screaming at you, shouting at you, swearing at you, etc. And you just go, yes, chef. I'll take it any day, not a problem. But you say that to him on the street corner around the corner, he'll beat the living shit out of you. Yeah. So where is it that suddenly in a corner, in a kitchen, it's okay, and people will understand that it's just the heat of the moment of service. And service is I'm not saying that it's a good thing to be like that, but service is different to normal life. There's an element of reality out of it.
A lot of it comes, I think, from the fact that, there's trust there, right? In those
one leader,
walls.
you follow and you all go down.
Yeah.
It's his fault if you go down.
Yeah.
It's not your fault, it's his fault because the head chef hasn't managed the kitchen. But if you start arguing about it in the middle of service, there's no time.
Well, take back to, you said something really interesting because I feel like a lot of times people use the word complacency in a negative way. And you were using it in a positive way. Talk to me about that. So this art of complacency, what does that mean?
Well, there's a certain point where you drive, you push, etc. And then there's a certain point where you look around and And I've gone from up to down with restaurants, COVID, losing restaurants, doing exceptionally well with restaurants. And I think, if you've got the right model and all your businesses are working, don't fuck it up. Don't try and open up another one and get greedy. That addiction that you have, whatever it was, you now you sort of fixate onto then being told how good the dish is, how good you are, etc.
It's
then
ego
you get
boost.
Again, that's another form of
it is addiction.
Addiction.
Yeah.
You want to be in the media, you want to be this, and so there's a certain point where you kind of realize, actually, you know what? Let me look around. And COVID gave you that reset, and coming back into COVID here and redoing everything again because we closed all the restaurants. I'm kind of going, you know what? That was a massive year and a half. I went from nothing back in Perth to now having everything back again. So I've lost it. So I suppose you're more appreciative of what you've lost, and now it's come back. So complacency is a good thing.
So where's the accent from? Where are you originally from, though?
Originally from, I was born in Portugal.
Okay. Love Portugal.
And then lived in the Algarve. Then we moved to Italy, lived in Verona. And then my father moved to Spain. Parents got divorced. I moved back to Edinburgh. And I suppose that's where I've got that sort of slightly strange foreign English accent. You can still get the private school boy underneath there occasionally, and then you've got a bit of the bogan Australian that comes over it as well.
I hear Australian sometimes. I was trying to pick up the Portuguese.
That's long gone, I think. And
we spent a month in Algarve in Benagil.
In Benagil, right? Out of Portimao.
Yeah. No, we used to live in. We still do. My father lives there in Alvor, Montes Alvor, near Portimao.
Yeah, we went to Portimao as well.
So it's again, we've had a very lucky life, and we've had a very expat. My parents were in Beirut before the war in the 70s, 60s. Sisters were born there, brothers were born there. Then we moved to Peru. So we've lived internationally.
And how many restaurants do you have right now?
So we've got 5 restaurants at the moment, and comfortable with that.
Are you? It's a lot, man.
It is a lot. It is.
And like, I know it's possibly like having a kid, but everybody has a favorite kid too. Let's be honest. You have a favorite restaurant?
Yeah,
or?
no. I mean, I think for me, every restaurant has a different stage in what we do. It's a different diversity, a different element of where we go. And I think, for me, I have a slight detachment to the restaurants. It's now a business. I've reached that stage where, this brings me. I go wherever the problems are. So there's not because I prefer to work here or there, but it's more about, again, keeping everything stable. If I can keep that consistency. But there's still
passion in the food, right?
No.
Yeah.
That passion, etc.
Yeah.
Is why I go back into the restaurants.
Yeah.
But I don't spend more time in one than the other.
Got it.
It just depends on what needs to be, if you're getting on TripAdvisor or on Google reviews that, there's a certain issue with the curries or whatever it is, then you have to go much deeper into the recipes and go, okay, so what are they doing wrong, or what ingredients shouldn't they have been adding, or what haven't they added? And so then you go into that and you start going deeper.
And from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but all Asian food, correct?
All Asian food, except for honey and smoke, which is now Western and starting to develop into more Western concepts.
But what is it about Asian food and Asian culture that's just like basically taken over your life? I mean, you're in love with it, right? What is it? Tell me about it.
Married it, got fucking half Asian kids,
For everybody that can't see us right now listening, we're in a beautiful villa in the middle of Bali, in the middle of a bustling street. There's this oasis, like a little slice of heaven where you live.
Yeah.
And work.
Yeah, and work and play, I think, I've been traveling Asia for 20 years now, or 25 years. It's just got a rawness that the West doesn't have. I mean, I remember when I was 10, 11, watching the Vietnam movies. Full Metal Jacket just came out. Vietnam War was only 20 years before that. This is back in the 90s. And you kind of go, fuck, it's that raw. It's still, and when you go to Cambodia and you go to the prison camps, I mean, when I first went to Cambodia, you were able to throw a grenade at a cow and blow it up.
Jesus.
It was the first election after Pol Pot. So therefore there were checkpoints. You couldn't go out at night. There were curfews. And, for me, I always wanted to be a war journalist. I kind of loved that sort of stuff, that journalistic element of it. And so for me, it was really about getting close to what it was to actually see the aftermath of what happened. And, you see it in Cambodia, you see it in Vietnam. In Vietnam, not so more, but Vietnam was very shut off at that time. So,
but the culture itself, not war aside, I mean, there's something about it that obviously attracts you. The food, the spices,
it's the conflict.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the conflict that has made the culture what it is, why it's interesting.
Okay.
And how they do it, because we come from such a privileged area, so everything is so privileged for us. So for me to go into the depth of what that is, and this was me going back 25 years ago. So there wasn't the food passion that I had back then because I hadn't experienced all this stuff. So now,
so your food passion grew out of your travels through Asia.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I was going back to that addictive personality, that whole thing. And so for me, it was an element of I needed structure. The kitchen gave me structure in my life. And that's what a lot of kitchens do for a lot of people. Not so much in Asia, but I go back to Australia and cook for the first time in 20 years. And I still see what I saw 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is, people on meth, they're on the bubble tea.
I think Bourdain said it best. I mean, he says that all the time.
Yeah,
right?
and it is bad. Because you got the bottom of society there. You've got, the poverty line. Most people are on the poverty line. Most people are getting government help, etc., that are there. So it's super important that for me it was the kitchens gave me structure, solidarity, and allowed me to focus on something. And then I went overseas and started traveling, and then this passion for food and seeing where you eat to live and seeing that on a daily basis. You would go in the middle of Laos and you're driving down and suddenly, 50 kilometers and suddenly there's a little stall in the middle of nowhere, a lady selling soup, pho bo or whatever. You're kind of going, why are you there in the middle of nowhere? And again, survival. It was a truck route. People need to eat. There hasn't been anything there. There's a slight entrepreneurship on it.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people right now are getting into food because of the celebrity aspect of
totally.
it, right? And you're coming at it from like this real seriousness.
There is no celebrity.
And intrigue, really, right? Like it intrigued you. And I think a little bit stems it with that conflict again, right? Like I loved what you said, that, culture could, in this instance, is built from conflict. And there's some realness here attached to it, right?
Yeah, no, there is.
And you're hanging on to it, and they're hanging on to it through street food, for example, or through the foods.
Yeah.
What is it like being the white dude in an Asian country cooking? Like, is there pressure? Is there awkwardness? Is it like...
Oh yeah, there's a lot of awkwardness. There's the great thing is like when it's like living in denial and you just don't understand your wife. They're just talking at you, but you're going, sorry, what? I don't understand you. And so you have this sort of obliviousness of you live in your own world. It's great.
You speak pretty good. I was seeing you today. You've been speaking pretty good Indonesian. Okay, I saw you cracking jokes with people. Okay,
you're getting better at it. But it's been interesting, it's also a fight. I think the hardest part of it is you've really got to, when I started cooking Indonesian food, I really had to travel Indonesian. So I was about to I'd written my first cookbook. I was about to do a second cookbook. And so this well-known Indonesian food writer kind of said to me, William Wongso, just because you're married to an Indonesian, what right do you have to write an Indonesian cookbook? And I'm like, well, it's not what I'm doing now, but it's what I will be doing and what I will be studying. So from then, he actually gave me a whole list of, ibus and warungs to go to and research. So he sort of helped me on the journey as well, actually. Apart from ridiculing me in the beginning, he actually like, okay, well, shit, if you are going to do it, let me give you a hand.
He challenged you.
Yeah, he challenged me. And it's fair enough.
He gave you sort of a roadmap of where to go, what to learn.
I'll go to this warung in Sumatra, go to Aceh and do this and meet this person. Here's the number.
So it came out of a sense of respect. I thought maybe it was coming out of this like, and don't hold back on this. I really want to hear your opinion on this. You know, I'll give you a good example. I read in the news that, like, I think a couple of months ago, there was this Australian girl living in New York, and she started a sushi restaurant, Aussie sushi style. And I'm not really sure what Aussie sushi is, but that style of sushi. Well, cancel culture came after her and basically was like, what right do you have to open up a sushi restaurant as a white woman in New York? Okay. And my mind fucking exploded, right? Out of anger, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I think that you're living and breathing that, right? Like, I don't know if you've had an experience with it or not.
Oh, I had it last night.
Really?
Yeah. You know, we have a green curry of short rib. No, sorry, it was a chuchi. We have a chuchi, which is a red curry, which is sort of an aromatic curry from central Thailand that has a lot more kaffir lime in it and it's a little bit creamier, etc. And yeah, this Thai lady came to the waiter and said, I find this flavor it's too intense. It's too strong. And, you know, so I said, okay, fine. And then she turns around and says, I'm Thai. I know best. You know, and I love how, you know, people like Thais, etc., that are, you know, you cook their food and they're like, no. I'm Thai and I know better, but they never cook at home and their servant cooks for them or whatever. You know, it's like, hello. And you know what's interesting is that in Thailand, as I've traveled, the green curries vary, or red curries or chuchis, they vary from one region to the next. And the reason why ours are slightly maybe a little bit more full flavored and less sweet is because what I see in the culture of Thai cooking and Thai curries, people are starting to use less and less sugar. So they're not using palm sugar.
Well, even regardless.
Because it's not. And so they'll use klinges, which is the coconut cream that they'll crack, and that will give the sweetness to the curry, which basically means that food is an ever-evolving movement.
Yes.
And one person may take it on. You have the spice route. You have the spices going from left to right, east to west, or west to east. But it's the people that take those spices along the journey that adapt them to their culture and bring a new cuisine or a new style. There's no right that they can and can't do it just because it comes from Europe or it comes from, you know, Asia.
You're telling me that anybody can cook any food they want?
Well, why not? People,
Thank you.
People can be a journalist and write about what they want. They don't have to be a journalist on one specific thing. They can write about anything.
Yeah, well, no one talks shit about the guy who's like the Scottish guy who owns a pizza store.
No.
You know,
no, and he deep fries it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and he doesn't even cook it in a pizza. He takes it out of the freezer and chucks it in the fryer. Have you had that before? No, deep fried pizza. It's a thing. God,
I gotta try that.
Yeah, no, don't try it, but it's a thing. And is the restaurant successful?
It was afterwards. Thank God, the cancel culture it reversed itself, and people went to go support her. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
So and there's still hope,
and that's calling people out on that sort of stuff. I just don't understand. If you don't like it, don't go.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you have to call it out and put it on social media. There's just no reason. You're hurting people's livelihood. Again, you go back to eat to live. You're hurting people's livelihood that they've put a lot of money and effort into.
What I also like about what you're doing is that there's a lot of respect. You know, you travel all over Indonesia and you try to get to know these people intimately and their food intimately. And you talk back and forth. It's not just, you know, pick something up. There's a sort of deeper layers that goes into it, sort of a deeper, or at least it seems like a deeper learning.
Yeah, no, there is. I mean, it's before I did an Indonesian restaurant, I had to win the hearts of Indonesians, hence why I did television. Wow. Because if I had done a restaurant first, well, then they go, well, what right do you have? You haven't even been around Indonesia yet. But the fact that I've done it on national television and gone around and cooked with locals.
So this was a whole plan.
Yeah. No, there was a whole plan behind it. Because I've seen other chefs like David Thompson that are Michelin star chefs, etc., that has done amazingly. But again, the Thais ridiculed him when he was in London and he had a Michelin star as a Thai restaurant.
There's no winning at that point.
It's like, the guy's got a Michelin star. He's gone into the king's palace. He's cooked all your recipes. He's safeguarded them. And now you're ridiculing him. But then when you come back to Thailand and he does it in Thailand, you now know, oh, no, we love him so much. Isn't he great? Like, fickle as hell.
Yeah.
People are fickle.
Well, it seems like it's been quite the journey to get to this place. Like, can you remember some like really hard moments that like you've overcome to get here? I mean, that's an interesting story in itself, that you planned to travel Indonesia to then have a restaurant, but now you have 5. You probably had many more in the past. What's one of the hardest moments you've had?
I mean, there's been a few. I mean, it's as I said, I think in Indonesia, or in Bali, and the culture here, and the culture in Bali is different to the culture in Indonesia as a whole. Every island has its own sort of essence. But for here, I think the Balinese believe in, you can't just have good. You got to have good and bad, because that creates a neutral space with both of them. And so this year, just as we built all the restaurants, etc., we one of the restaurants caught on fire and burned down the back. God. And then one of my partners, 2 days later, his wife passed, unfortunately. And then my dog died the night of the fire. And then I was sick as well, 3 days after that, in Billy Ho, in the restaurant, in the toilet, buckling up, kind of throwing up, and everything else. And you got to look at it in perspective, and you got to look at it as running it in two ways. So I run my business. I run it on a spiritual level, and then I run it on a reality of what it is. And so for me, all those things that happened, they've all happened for a reason. So, my staff said the reason why there was a fire was because we didn't manage the ceremony when we first opened. We didn't drag the bantan, which is a chicken on a skewer. We didn't drag the chicken around the kitchen. Oh, sorry, not we, but the person that did the ceremony, that owns the building, insisted that he did it. So we weren't in control. So basically, because he didn't drag the chicken around the kitchen, the dead chicken, it wasn't blessed correctly. So that was the fault of why the fire happened and the bad energy that happened there. If you look at the reality of it, it was an electrical fire that was up in the hood, and there was nothing anyone can do about it. But you've got to look at.
Your staff is on this level, and your reality possibly on this level, and you got
to manage it. And then you come home and you've given your dog to the vet, and suddenly the vet's killed it.
But the reason spiritually was?
Well, the reason spiritually about around that whole thing is it's about how you as a person are going through stages of your life, and how you handle pressure, and how you handle negative things that come to you. And so it's more on a test of, are you ready to take the next stage of getting older? Which again, you look at in the Western side of things, it's going between your 20s and your 30s, your 30s and your 40s, and your 40s and your 50s. When you start hitting 50, you become a little bit more placid about things. You start to put things into perspective,
and then before you talk,
and then you think before you talk, and then also on the spiritual side of things, the kids in the restaurants, and we hadn't blessed here, we hadn't blessed Billy Ho. And there weren't any blessings that we've done. There was there's no one managing the business spirituality of it.
Now there is, though.
Now there is. And so, we've got young kids that are working for us. So those kids are too young and don't have the experience and the experience to understand where the energies are, what the spirits are, because they're still only 19, 20 years old. So we needed someone that was more, mature, that can, put this together and start looking at it and go, okay, well, we need to put an offering here because there's a bad energy into there. We feel that there's some children there that are playing that need to be looked after. We feel that there is, the guardians of the whole property. So you always have a guardian on the property. That's a spirit guardian. They haven't been given the correct offerings. So all these things.
Do you do these things because of where you are, or do you believe them yourself as well, or is it like a balance of two?
Balance of two.
So you've been here like long enough that this is your culture now.
I mean, they were surprised. So as soon as we did the fire, I got everyone to do a cleansing. So I went to my manku, and none of them had been to that temple before. None of them knew that temple, and they all got cleansed, etc. A couple went into a trance. So sometimes if I get a staff member that perhaps is not doing very well, and normally you'd give them a written warning, I will look at them and go, okay, let me just have a look at you. I can see that there's something, your chakra is blocked. There's something that you can't communicate. You're not communicating correctly.
Wow.
So I won't go and fix it, but I identify it, and we'll get the manku to come and chat to him and give him a malukat or a blessing or whatever it is, to then see if that helps him communicate better. And 50% it works, 50% the guy's just an arsehole and needs to go.
But you really embrace.
But you embrace it, and you manage it. You don't believe in it, because the more you believe in it, the more that it consumes you.
Yeah.
And you start to consume yourself with negative thoughts, etc. So there's a real balance between, again, negative and positive in the neutral space, and trying to create that through your business with your staff, etc. as well.
Well, I mean, it's like, this is just one way that you're relating to your team.
Totally.
Right? They all believe in Hinduism.
Yeah.
This is their religion, and they're connected to nature, to humans, to God in ways that I have never seen before. I've only been here about a week and a half, and it's honestly not only admirable, but something that's spoken to me a little bit. It's a nice way to live.
It's a nice way to live. There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it.
No.
And this idea that it's like the relationship that they have with God, the relationship they have with nature, and with humans are all kind of these three pillars that make up who they are in their everyday life. Now, I didn't know all of the ins and outs that you're speaking about right now, which are like pretty...
No, it gets full on.
Fantastical, to be honest.
It gets really full on. I mean, it's like we don't have a temple here, because if you have a temple, then you have to feed the temple. You can't neglect the temple. You've got to pray. You've got to do the ceremonies.
But it's okay if you don't have one.
But it's okay if you don't have one. Okay. But you can have a small little.
So it's like a kid.
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't have one.
Yeah.
But if you have one, you got to feed it.
You got to feed it. Exactly. And it's but we have a little penjol, and we have a little thing in the front there that's a small offering that we put food on every day.
It's interesting too, because there's a business side that you can't ignore. Like, you have to. I think a lot of times in business, people are like, "Oh, let's ignore this part of the culture. Let's just put this down." But here, you really have to bring it in.
And that's what I feel a little bit about where Bali is at the moment, is that a lot of the people that have come in new are not seeing this element of it.
Really?
And it's just, you've got big companies from Dubai, you've got, Hong Kong, and they're just
throwing money.
They're just throwing money at it. And it's like, where's the harmony and everything? Where's the balance? Why don't the owners sit there and do the ceremonies with the Balinese? Why are they just going, "Oh, I'm excluded. It's a Bali thing. It's a Balinese thing. It's not my problem." Like,
yeah, and you're in their home, right?
You should be there. You should be part of it. You should be engaged in it, etc.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but respect is a big thing, I think, in your life. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Because it can be taken away with you. I mean, what I realized when I was in Perth, I walked out with what I came with, which was nothing, 5 bags. I couldn't sell the houses, couldn't sell the businesses, and literally I walked out, turned my back on everything I have, and was prepared to lose it all. But luckily, and I came back and I was drawn back, and for some reason Bali has this thing that keeps on drawing me back into it, even though you try to leave 2 or 3 times, which I have done. I've tried to leave 3 times.
Really?
I tried to go to Hong Kong. I tried to go to Thailand and live. Gone to Australia, but it keeps on bringing me back to being home.
This is home.
It's home. Yeah. It keeps on bringing me back.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
That's a big word for a white dude born in Portugal that's from Scotland. Bali is home.
Or you could say, my wife owns all the land, and I've got to make a breakfast every day, otherwise I lose everything. So maybe that's what brings me home every morning. I'm not quite sure.
We were talking about how you started into Asian cooking because it sounded like the path of least resistance for you. You were going to be the most successful, the easiest way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think in Asia, I don't know about, but in the West, I don't think so much. But who you work for as a brand defines you of who you are as a person. And I don't think you get that so much in the West. So here it's everyone loves brands. It's that Asian thing, brands and etc. So if you say, "Oh, I work for so and so," everyone's interested. For us here, it's really consumed what we've done because the brands have got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so in the end, we become the brand. That takes a toll on it as well, because you also get fed up because you are often ridiculed. You're often the topic of conversation on a dining room table, whether you fail, whether you success, whether the restaurant was good, or so you did this or you did that. So with all the restaurants that you've built and the TV and the books and etc., you actually become more of a recluse because people are ready to shoot you down 24/7.
Well, I mean, it's especially the culture nowadays where it's like everybody is quick
to respond
when you fail.
Yeah, so quick.
And when you succeed, it's like, yeah, it's good.
And no one understands that complaint that person made, or that comment on Google reviews or whatever it is, that's a 4-day process for me. So I have to go back. I have to think about it. I don't sleep because I'm thinking about what that issue is, etc. And then it reflects on me as a brand that I failed in delivering something. Then that means I have to go into the kitchen. Then I have to find out what section it was on, what area it was on, what dish it was, and is it the problem with the dish or is it the problem with the customer? And then I change the menu, and then I'll change 5 other dishes because that offsets the menu on this. So the actual knock-on effect for someone's flippant comment for hospitality people is absolutely huge.
And I think flippant is the key word there, right? If somebody goes in, I don't leave reviews.
Me neither.
Good or bad.
I just don't go.
I'm not the guy to ask. Yeah. You know
Full
what I mean?
recluse, you got.
No, I just don't go to the restaurant anymore.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it for me. But it's true. These comments nowadays, I think because the disconnect that we have because of social media, because of whatever it may be, we've lost connection and we've lost the empathy and sympathy of others, right? Like when I'm not a public figure, but I have an audience, and when I make a video, we put our all into a video, and we create something, and somebody's like, this is shit, or and it's like that affects me.
No, you think about it, and you're gonna go, and it puts you in a bad mood, and it's you sleep at it, and you go, how can I make it better? Or
and it's BS. Like, why go and try to throw your negativity onto someone else? And guess what? You see it time and time again, especially in content. Like you screw up, you fuck up, your comment section blows up.
Oh yeah.
You do something fantastic, 0.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And that's why the best thing is just not to leave a comment. I think the West is more at it than necessarily here. Like we look at our Indonesian audience, etc. They're generally fairly peaceful. They don't like whatever. They don't really make too much comment on it, or they might just put 1 star and not even leave a comment on.
I think people forget that there's a person behind a brand. And I think what's challenging on the other end of it for somebody like Michael or somebody like you is that you intertwine your identity with your brand so much because you put your whole into it. You're opening yourself up to this so that you give it a full manifestation, and then that means you're opening yourself up to these comments and vulnerable to them.
Yeah, it's true.
As I said, you are the brand, and the brand is you. You become the brand.
Yeah.
Where do you draw a line, or do you draw a line between your identity and the restaurant's identity?
As I get older, I kind of go, I don't care. I'd rather go surfing with the kids. Like, really? That's what you think? Who gives a fuck? Yeah, I'll go in and fix it. It's no longer that pressure for me anymore.
Yeah.
I've taken that out. I'm going, what? It's a business.
It's a different phase of life.
It's a different phase. It's a business. It's not my life. After living in Perth, I think for me is I've got to spend more time with the kids. I've got to appreciate time with the kids, where beforehand I would be like here, okay, the driver's driving them to school. You go to work, you come back, you don't even see your kids, to be honest. You don't even know that you've got kids. What Australia did was made me have responsibility because there is no help. Like, you are doing it and you're on it. So what that's done now has really made me go, you know what, I am actually going to go for 2 weeks surfing with the kids. I don't care. I'm actually going to do that. Or I'm going to go skiing, or we're going to go camping up north, or we're going to do this. So you actually now start to
I hate that word too.
Yeah.
I hate that. What's the word? How do you say it?
Compartmentalize.
I can't even say it. Yeah.
Compartmentalize your life and your structures of what you want, rather than trying to worry about what other people think and feel. You go, no, this is my time. That's what I'm doing. Like it or not, it's okay.
I love that. I think that's a perfect place to end, but we do like to do a speed round of 4 questions. Don't think, just answer. Okay? We ask every guest the same 4 questions at the end of the interview. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Perth.
Why?
Outdoor.
Okay. What makes you happiest?
Being alone.
What are you most scared of?
Failure.
What is your biggest regret?
Didn't do pastry.
What?
Didn't do pastry.
And that's a wrap. All this Hinduism and philosophy and then balance of good and evil. Didn't do pastry. High five, dude.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
What a
Pleasure.
great conversation.
I really enjoyed that. Man, I love that guy.
Yeah, he's fun.
I love Bali.
Bali's been really cool so far.
Just chatting with this guy, understanding his philosophy and getting to know him a little bit better and seeing Bali through his perception.
Yeah, and it keeps calling him back. Like, no matter what he does, he's back in Bali. Can't get away from it.
I know. And I just, I don't know, this podcast that we're doing, I think there's a bigger underlying mission that's evolving here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just introducing people to extraordinary individuals all around the world, but it's letting people see the countries that they're in through their eyes.
Yeah, that's what I love about it too, because often they're in these niche communities and they know this island or this city or wherever we are in a way that nobody else does.
I mean, I am biased, but I definitely think that Chef Will Meyrick is one of the most extraordinary people in the world.
If you want to follow him on Instagram, his handle is Meyrick Will. And on his website, you can book all of these amazing experiences, and that's willmeyrick.com.
You want to spell it for them?
Will, W-I-L-L, Meyrick, M-E-Y-R-I-C-K.
Every other Thursday, we post a new podcast. On the next one, we're taking a deeper dive into Bali.
Make sure you subscribe or add us to your library, whether it's Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening.
And don't forget, we're lugging around our suitcase, our microphones, to every single location so you can be there with us.
Thanks for listening.